So with the latest chapter of Eden Zero coming out at this time being chapter 123, there was lots of very interesting information that I felt like was given to us, or one major bit of information given to us, that being connecting Elsie with Justice, them having the same ether gear. Now, obviously, if you have followed my channel at all, you see that I have not made a Eden Zero chapter review video, mostly because of my poor planning, and I don't really care to make review videos so many days after I see the chapter, just 'cause I feel like it's lost its impact. However, I really do want to talk about the subject of Elsie and Justice, and this actually was going to basically be the bulk of the chapter review anyway, so I guess this kind of will serve both purposes quite well. And that would just be my theory on their connection. Now, obviously, at the moment, we may or may not be getting more information about this in chapter 124 onward, but as for right now, these are just my thoughts on what could potentially be their relationship. So in the chapter, we do get to see Justice unleash a full display, or not a full display, but a nice display, a really nice showing of what he can do. And this basically being with his ether gear Star Drain, at least that's what it says in the unofficial Star Drain, which we know from the past, or from the previous chapters, is that this is the same ether gear as Elise, meaning that these two have the same ether gear. And seeing that Star Drain is basically just a combination of abilities of Urza and Jalal from Fairy Tail, being that, you know, they drain the planet's like natural ether, and then that gives them a re-equip like how Urza has, and then you actually get spell, like you can actually cast things like Grand Chariot or Meteor like Jalal could. So it's really like a combination. So with their abilities being a combination of two characters that had an intertwined past, it only makes sense that these two characters themselves would also have an intertwined past like Urza and Jalal. But typically when we see two people with the same ether gear, it's more of a like master student type deal, such as with Valkyrie and Homura, or Shiki and Ziggy, for like two examples right off of the bat. But typically it's like a master and student, because we do know that ether gears can be learned from another person. That seems to be the most common way that someone obtains ones. Obviously, the mysteries of ether gear have not been fully explained to us quite yet, but going off of the information we have now, we can assume that the majority of the people in the series have learned their ether gear from another person. That being said, in the case of Elsie and Justice, they both appear to be roughly the same age. I don't believe we have official ages for both of them, but they appear to be close to the same age, which it would stand very fair chance to assume that one did not teach it to the other one. So with that, we have their ether gear being a big connecting piece for the both of them, in a sense of maybe they both learned it from the same person. This would kind of be where the start of my first theory for them, for their relationship, or what their past could have been. I kind of predict that Elsie or Justice could have had the same ether gear master at one point or another. It could get a little bit dicey as to when, because I'm assuming it would have to be at some point after her leaving or departing from Ziggy. I feel like that would be the only time frame for her that it would fit. And in the midst of them having the same teacher, something tragic could have happened where the master could have died, and that kind of sends them both on two separate paths, being where Elsie kind of goes off and does whatever she wants, you know, looting and stealing ships and just surviving as a pirate, just to becoming more of the outstanding lawman, you know, stickler for rules and all these kind of things. And also it could be a reason why like Justice could potentially blame the death of the master on Elsie, which could explain why he has like a raging hate boner for her. Now, this is kind of one theory that I had, but this one I don't really think is quite it. This is just one that, like, you know, is possible. The one that I really have a lot of stock in would be my second theory. And that would be that like Elsie more so awakened her ether gear similar to how Rebecca did, where she just kind of happened. It just kind of just awakened upon her, and then she just gradually got to learning how to use it on her own. Whereas Justice, he had a formal teacher, like he had a formal master, and they heard about the space pirate using the power of the ether gear that they both know to kind of be a pirate, do all these things, and just and you know, break the laws and all this. And Justice Justice's master was probably be similar to Justice himself, instilling, like, following the rules, being, like I said, an outstanding citizen, and may have instilled it in Justice that he needs to bring this person that is using the ether gear that they have down to kind of keep the reputation of the ether gear that they have in a good name. That's kind of the one that I'm more so leaning to, just because we know that Elsie was picked up by Ziggy, and then when she was like mad young, and then from there she was given the ship and basically went on to just live and pillage and just kind of survive on her own, and just happened to become a space pirate just over the course of her own adventure. So that's the only issue that I have with my other theory, is that where she would have learned it the whole time frame kind of doesn't fit all that well from an actual master. Whereas her just having just awakened to it, it makes sense because they have the whole bath in the Eden Zero ship that helps promotes the flow of like ether. This is kind of what may have spurred Rebecca's growth along, so I imagine it could have potentially did the same thing for Elsie. Also, it doesn't appear that any of the four shining stars, excluding Valkyrie of course, because she didn't get to interact with Elsie in the current story, but Sister Hermit and Witch, it didn't appear that they had any knowledge of Elsie's ether gear. Like, I mean, granted, there wasn't really a lot of opportunity for them to really tell Shiki about it or just bring it up in the story, but it just didn't really seem like they knew what her ether gear was, or that she had one, or anything like those, or anything like that, which would further push that she obtained it after she left with them. And then it would really fit in Justice's character to take on a task from a master or a higher up, just because we see how much of a stickler for the rules he is, how much of a duty bound kind of guy he is. It just fits both of their characters extremely well in this way, to me at least. There is one secret third theory that's like way out there for me. It's like way out there, so I'm not even gonna go like super deep into that one. But there is this thought that I had that potentially it's kind of a combination of the first two, where Elsie awakened to her abilities, whereas Justice had a master, and they somehow at some point or another came in contact with each other in a time, and through some form of accident or another, the master that Justice has, or someone close to Justice, met their end accidentally by the hands of Elsie, which would kind of be where a lot of his hate comes from, and why Elsie doesn't, because it doesn't seem like Elsie necessarily has any feelings towards him, nor is she remorseful towards him at any point, so she might not see whatever happened between them as her fault, but it would kind of definitely, it would be fuel, so to speak, for Justice. And it would also kind of mirror how in Fairy Tail Urza and Jalal did spend some time together before they eventually split, because I kind of do think they had to have some type of prolonged exposure with each other before events happen and they separate. That's kind of my thought, but I think that one's kind of out there to me. Let me know what you guys think down below, if you guys agree with 1, 2, or 3 of my theories, or if you have your own. I would love to hear what you guys think is going on between Elsie and Justice, and how that whole thing went. That being said, make sure you guys like the video as well as sub to the channel for more Eden Zero content. I will be trying to pump out more. I'm not gonna miss the next chapter. I was just like, I had a couple videos that I was trying to put out and then work, and I got kind of just overwhelmed for a second, but we're definitely going to do better in the future. Outside of that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you all in my next video.